The Glamrock Band was a turning point in the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise, both in how the animatronics were characterized and how the game treated them, both as threats and as characters we were supposed to identify with. Nowhere is this more apparent than with Glamrock Bonnie, an animatronic whose disappearance and eventual revealed remains were treated as a murder mystery instead of just as a broken bot, as in past games. This was sort of the first time that an animatronic had been framed as a murder victim. Like, not possessed by a victim of Freddy's, but the actual victimized party. Not who possessed this robot, but instead, who was Bonnie and where is Bonnie? Largely propelled by Glamrock Freddy's concern and comments over him, as Freddy himself was the first animatronic who was a true ally and major upfront character, having more personality and moments that shine than even the humans in the game. Through him we learn of Glamrock Bonnie, but we didn't see him, and this only stirred the pot until the plot thickened. But eventually we had the reveal of where he went, and more questions than answers. But one thing was for certain, it seemed like part of Glamrock Bonnie might still be alive, and it was through staff bots known as the Wet Floor Bots. Which seems simple enough at face value, except it's not simple at all, and today we need to uncover some of the cracks in the facade surrounding Glamrock Bonnie, and the possibility that there was something more going on here. But let's start with a brief explanation of the Wet Floor Bots, to get that out of the way. Wet Floor Bots are miniature staff bots located around the Pizzaplex. They're pretty cute, but they don't do much. They stand in place to, assumedly, work as actual wet floor signs. And while it could be that they are simply a sign of Fazbear Entertainment's wastefulness, making a bot that does nothing but stands there, due to their eyes and what we see in Ruin, I think these guys might have worked as backup cameras. This could explain why they watch Gregory so closely as he passes by in security breach. Another possibility could be, considering their speaker ears, that they are also listening, or were perhaps to play announcements and security warnings. Otherwise, Wet Floor Bots simply stand there, unless you hit them with a phaser blaster, in which case they will set off a security alert and spawn in whatever Glamrock is set for the location. By Ruin, there are some remaining in the Pizzaplex that you can find and deactivate. However, you can only do it with the Vanny mask on, as the Wet Floor Bots will look away from you until you have the mask on, oddly enough. It's never telegraphed why you are doing this, or the benefit of doing this. Considering that Cassie doesn't want to shut Roxy down and does try to help Chica, it's never implied that she's doing this out of mercy or malice. I suppose it's just a collectible, but even then, why you are doing this isn't directly stated. One of the Wet Floor Bots can even be found in a secret area where there's a Monty leg shrine. Though, since it's stuck in place, we can't say if it was purposefully leading Cassie there or if it was too just a collectible for you to grab since you found the secret. Now, as for what the Wet Floor Bots actually unlock, it is a secret in Bonnie Bowl, the location of Glamrock Bonnie's body. Before we continue, let me take a step back and explain who Glamrock Bonnie is. Glamrock Bonnie was the former bassist of the Glamrock Band before Monty took over. His attraction was Bonnie Bowl, and he had his own line of merch and candies known as Carrot Drops. We don't know what Fizzy Faz was his, but I have a headcanon that it was the elusive cherry mentioned in a note but not actually found in-game, which would match Glamrock Bonnie's color scheme, being predominantly red on his outfit and in his eyes. Appearance-wise, Glamrock Bonnie has a similar build to Glamrock Freddy. He has soft blue coloring, resembling Toy Bonnie, and a tuft of blue hair between his ears. He has bright red eyes. His clothing consists of a red leotard 80s sort of workout suit that's red with purple stripes on the chest, and has a star in the center. He has indigo gloves, leg warmers, a sort of half-capelet shoulder guards, and a sweatband. Though by time we see him in Ruin, he is dirtied and broken into pieces. From old neon signs spotted in Ruin, we can see that Glamrock Bonnie used to have star-shaped shades, which Monty now wears. Why these were wiped from the sparse remaining Bonnie marketing material, such as Monty's ride, could be as to not confuse branding. Glamrock Bonnie was a beloved member of the band and seemed to be close to his bandmates due to how you can find bowling equipment in both Freddy and Chica's green rooms, though we know much more about his relationship with Freddy from Freddy. Now, I know some folks get a little touchy when I talk about Freddy and Bonnie's relationship, so I'm going to be extra careful today as to not upset anyone. So, Bonnie and Freddy were very good friends. They were very close. So close that Freddy signed a poster, "You and me, forever and ever, love Freddy." And Bonnie kept it on his wall. Bonnie even kept Freddy plushies and trophies around his vanity where he could look at them. They even had matching singular earrings. They were such good friends as well that after Bonnie's disappearance, Freddy is actively mourning and missing him. He brings him up unprompted, even opening up about him at the bowling alley.
"I do not come up here anymore. I miss him."
Like I said, Freddy even has bowling balls in his room still. Chica too, but Freddy's are more out in the open, even though he doesn't go to Bonnie Bowl anymore. While Freddy doesn't expressly say it, there is no doubt he was searching for Bonnie. But he didn't find him, and then he stopped returning to the bowling alley, period, even though he clearly enjoyed it. Because he truly does really miss him. Bonnie was his closest guy friend. He had a couple of friends who were girls, but Bonnie was his best boy friend. Anyways, Bonnie disappeared unexpectedly one day, leaving both his bandmates and employees stumped. He was spotted on the security cameras wandering around, heading into the East Arcade around 2 a.m., and last seen entering Monty Golf around 4 a.m., before he seemingly vanished without a trace. Nobody could figure out where he went, and it was decided, very quickly, to just abandon the prospect of Bonnie and replace him with Monty, first as a temp replacement, and then as a permanent addition. While Bonnie Bowl remained open, almost all of the Bonnie merchandise and mentions outside of this area were removed, with the only one remaining that we know of being in Monty's Dark Ride, where the replacement of Bonnie is framed as a rags to riches fairy tale, where swamp-living Monty is recognized for his talent and offered by Bonnie himself to replace him, likely to try and curb back on the multitudes of questions about where Bonnie was. So many, in fact, that they were considering retheming Bonnie Bowl. Monty received bass-playing claws. Now, he already had claws. These were just specific claws to play the bass, but I won't get into that right now. And his green room replaced Bonnie's in Rockstar Row. The book VIP, which has unknown canonicity but seems to be pretty close to the real deal. You know how critical I am of the books not being game accurate or not having anything to do with the games, but VIP is very close. VIP is either canon or written by someone who was very aware of Security Breach and had a good amount of knowledge about the Glamrock's characterization and FNAF in general. And plus, it is in the same series as The Week Before, a book that everyone has pretty much accepted as canon, but I digress. Claims that Glamrock Bonnie used to have a green room in Rockstar Row. VIP does. Though we find a small makeshift one hidden behind a stage in ruin. Considering that Monty didn't replace Bonnie until after he disappeared, as per the employee notes, and this secret green room was not located in the multitude of cut areas from Security Breach, with the door leading to Vanny's room even getting retconned into another place entirely, I think that this green room is here specifically as set dressing to reveal more about Bonnie to the audience. And I think that the plot hole this creates about why the bassist wasn't stationed in Rockstar Row should just sort of be acknowledged but not thought too deeply into. I think this is simply a matter of moving things to help the story along. Now, let's take a real deep look into what actually happened to Bonnie. Because despite the fact that somehow nobody could find him, something I will come back to later, Cassie, a small child running around a destroyed Pizzaplex, ends up finding him within minutes of entering Bonnie Bowl. Though that could be because of the wet floor bots. Cassie deactivates wet floor bots throughout the Pizzaplex as she makes her way along until she reaches Bonnie Bowl. Upon which, if she shuts down all of them, she finds a secret entrance into a back room where she finds the remains of Glamrock Bonnie. Bonnie's injuries are many, but they should be familiar, as they are for the most part the exact same injuries Monty got falling off of the catwalk, down to the bisection in the middle, with him being separated from his legs, but them still being lined up, though his limbs are detached. Personally, I think this was to move him, likely with the rug underneath him. The rug matches the pattern of both the carpet in Monty Goth and in the East Arcade, but it is too dirty and discolored to see exactly what color it is, though either way we do know that Glamrock Bonnie was in both locations. And we know that carpet doesn't come from here. There is a round smash mark on the wall and a broken bowling ball in pieces lying over him. Now you may think that this bowling ball was used to break Bonnie, but the wounds do not match. They don't match the damage on the wall either. Instead, the bowling ball was smashed on the wall and then placed on him, with his body being laid out like he had been fully intact, and then wet floorboards have been placed around him. So basically, the scene is staged to look like a slip and fall, where Bonnie slipped on wet floor, hit himself with a bowling ball, and smashed to pieces when he fell. That obviously didn't happen from the damage on the wall and the rug on the floor, but grade A effort. But there's something else going on here involving the wet floorbots. Their yellow eyes staring as you come in, matching Bonnie's own, which are bright and glowing yellow. If you put on the mask, there are purple cracks surrounding Glamrock Bonnie's body. If you deactivate these last wet floorbots, Glamrock Bonnie's eyes stop glowing. He is connected to these wet floorbots. Has he been watching the world through them? That seems to be the case, or at least living through them, as the moment they are shut down, he fades as well. This bond was likely caused by Bonnie being too broken to move, but still activated, and the wet floorbots being placed so close that he somehow tethered into them, connected with them, like through a transponder. The exact schematics are unclear, but considering how much of the Pizzaplex is automated, it should be no shock that once you get inside, you have full reign of the place. But what else was Glamrock Bonnie able to do other than watch? Well, we'll get right back to that. There's a lot of evidence that this act, this shattering of Glamrock Bonnie, was perpetrated by Monty Gator. Now, I'm not saying Monty did it. I'm saving that for my next Monty video, putting Monty on trial for killing Freddy's boyfriend. What I am saying is that from this point on, I'm going to be referring to Monty as being the most likely candidate for being the one who did it, but as we'll soon see, the situation becomes very messy very quickly, especially when we take into account the real reason for this video. I've covered Bonnie before, his shattering, his relationship with Freddy, the overall tragedy of the situation, and only once or twice did I broach over the possibility that Glamrock Bonnie might not be what he seems. But the further we get along, the more we see, and the more we begin to wonder how cut and dry this all is, and it comes down to Ruin. In Ruin, a young girl named Cassie is lured into the derelict and abandoned Pizzaplex and is tasked to rescue Gregory, the main character from the base game, from the sinkhole under Roxy Raceway. However, this is actually the Mimic, a creature merely mimicking Gregory's voice and, depending on if you find certain secrets, his appearance by using patchwork suits. Yes, that was actually what Mimic was going for. The Mimic is held at bay by a security system known as the MXES, the Mexis, which was established to contain him, and Cassie must use the Vanny mask with the help of Helpi, the virtual avatar, to deactivate all the security measures so that Mimic can roam free. Let's first establish one clear fact. Mimic had an accomplice. Cassie is apparently sent a message by phone or email telling her to come to the Pizzaplex, but once she gets there, her only means of communication with Mimic is a Roxy walkie-talkie. Indeed, the only connection he seems to have with the outside world, period, is this lone radio. And he doesn't even seem to have access to most of the systems because the Mexis is there suppressing him. So first of all, how did the radio get placed specifically near the entrance for Cassie to find it? One that just happened to get paired up with the one in the basement, And how is she still getting guiding from the main systems within the Pizzaplex? And how did she get the message outside of the Pizzaplex, outside of this single piece of technology? There was someone else helping Mimic, and though we don't know how the radio got there, probably one of the few remaining staff bots dumped it off, everything else could be explained by this other someone being in the system outside of where the mechs is controlled. And that's where we get to Helpi. Like I said, Helpi is the virtual avatar inside of the Vanny mask, which then becomes part of the real world for Cassie once she takes the mask off. He seems helpful and friendly, but Helpi has two personalities. One is the to-the-point friendly automated blue-eyed Helpi who seems to think Cassie is a worker and states things matter-of-factly. Then there is the Yellow-Eyed Helpi, a Helpi who is not only fully aware of what's going on, but often dismisses Cassie's concerns as being in her head or not real. Here are some lines in comparison. Blue-Eyed Helpi. Fazbear Entertainment is not responsible for potential AR traumas or lingering effects of antivirus programs on carbon-based work components. Yellow-Eyed Helpi. It is all in your head. Take off the mask and take a look. Blue-Eyed Helpi. Just another Phasmazing benefit of being a Class V technician. Of course, you will have to put your mask back on to get any real work done. Blue-Eyed Helpi again. If that doesn't work, it is best to exit AR mode and contact our 24-hour support line. Yellow-Eyed Helpi. If you want to save your friend, you have to shut down the remaining nodes in Bonnie Bowl and Phaser Blast. Whenever Cassie gets a direct order, it is not through Blue-Eyed Helpi, but through Yellow-Eyed Helpi. Notably, Yellow-Eyed Helpi has purple cracking around his eyes. It's all very suspicious. And I know what you're thinking. Ah, the Mimic. Isn't Yellow-Eyed Helpi the Mimic? Well, I used to think so, but I don't anymore. See, Mimic mimicking Gregory's voice lines, is labeled in the files as Grimmick. Helpi is labeled as Helptrap, and at one point the two talk against each other. Helpi says that he got rid of the Mexis, and Gregory Grimmick says, "Yeah, with my help."
Yeah, with my help. I have been helping with the signal jammer. That rabbit thing won't bother you anymore.
There's no reason Mimic had to step in here. Cassie not only believes this is Gregory, but she doesn't suspect Helpi or him at all. This line is argumentative for no reason, which makes me think that Mimic, as he is currently mimicking Gregory and thus reflecting his personality, wanted to set the record straight. I don't think Helptrap and Grimmick are the same being, and I don't think that they're just two mimics either, just because I personally think that would kind of be a little bit of a cop-out. Nah, it wasn't Mimic, it was the other Mimic. So who is Yellow-Eyed Helpi? As Yellow-Eyed Helpi is labeled as Helptrap in the files, you would assume this is Glitchtrap. And in Help Wanted 2, Glitchtrap's arm that delivers the memory dolls to you is labeled as Helptrap. That confirms it, right? Well, there is a problem. Two problems, one small, one big. Firstly, that was not supposed to be Glitchtrap's arm originally. It was supposed to be Vanny's. But that's cut content. That's not a big deal. The bigger deal is that J-Top of Steel Wool Studios said during a recent interview that Glitchtrap was destroyed at the end of Help Wanted 2 and isn't coming back. And since Help Wanted 2 takes place before Ruin, as one of the endings involves our character waking up as a mask bot and giving the Vanny mask to Cassie, this means that Glitchtrap was not in Ruin. And this makes sense, as the dust Glitchtrap was exploded into in Help Wanted 2 is seen smeared on Vanny's wall in Ruin. Who is Yellow-Eyed Helpi, if not Glitchtrap, and if there's some evidence that it's not the Mimic? I mean, is he connected to the glowing, yellow-eyed Glamrock Bonnie who is connected to the major systems in the Pizzaplex? Well, I certainly don't know. But for a gag, let's go into the completely non-serious evidence that Glamrock Bonnie might have been working as the Yellow-Eyed Helpi and is actually not what he seems. And I'm not just saying that because the AR Helpi plush is located right beside Bonnie's body either, or because of the purple cracks circling his body when you have the mask on, which somehow kind of match the cracks on Helpi's face, sort of, or because of the yellow eyes, those are very noticeable too. We know that Glamrock Bonnie is connected with a major system in the Pizzaplex and that he has numerous eyes across the building. We know that he was able to hook himself up to nearby wet floorbots without wires. Almost how Yellow-Eyed Helpi paired with Cassie just by the mask being worn. And it's yet another surprising connection. But there is one thing I should mention. If Cassie shuts down Bonnie and the wet floorbots, then how is Yellow-Eyed Helpi still active afterwards? And there's actually two explanations for that, one in-game and one meta. The in-game explanation is that Glamrock Bonnie's consciousness, if he is Yellow-Eyed Helpi, is already in the Pizzaplex system. The first wet floorbot you pass is toppled over and partially connected to a wall outlet that has a glowing yellow eye on it, or glowing yellow light on it. You cannot deactivate it because it has already been deactivated. And no, this isn't an obscure detail because it's directly beside the phase wrench. This gave me the idea that even if these outer bodies are shut off, it doesn't mean that the consciousness isn't still in the system. Think of it like, I'm already inside. And also, just because Glamrock Bonnie's body was deactivated doesn't mean the rest of the wet floorbots were. Cassie went around almost the entire Pizzaplex, but there's no way with how the place is falling apart that she really managed to find and deactivate every single one, could she? The meta idea is the prospect that, though this is a secret in the game, Cassie didn't canonically do it. Well, what do I mean? Well, like the Brazil ending is technically not canon, and though we see Gregory and Helpi, Cassie technically does not. So, does Cassie canonically release Bonnie or not? I would say yes, but I would also say that whatever's in him is probably already in the mainframe. There's one more thing I want to bring up that I discovered while making this video. When you leave Glamrock Bonnie's green room through the vent and slide down the rabbit hole purple tunnel, a few AR objects appear in the tunnel. Up until now I thought they were just random objects, but they are in fact a phaser blaster, what looks like the Glitchtrap plush, a Monty plush or pinata, and the wet floorbots. And then it ends with mexes. I can't say for sure what these represent, but seeing some of these characters displayed together is noticeable. There are some notable connections, circumstantial connections, but notable ones. The pairing, the plushie, the cracks, the eyes, the presence hanging over the Pizzaplex. But why? Why would Glamrock Bonnie be Yellow-Eyed Helpi? Why would he do this? Well, there's two things worth noting. Firstly, Vanny and Glitchtrap's major plan involved hacking the animatronics in the Pizzaplex and using it as a big hunting ground. They even succeeded in hacking Chica, Monty, Roxy, and the daycare attendant, and the only reason they didn't get Freddy was because he went into safe mode. The other thing is that Vanny's secret room is not the security office for Phaser Blast, but the one for Bonnie Bull. It's just connected to Phaser Blast. The security office for Phaser Blast is actually downstairs in the lobby. Putting all this together and the obsession with rabbits that Glitchtrap has, making Vanny a suit that is shaped in his image, I think that there's a good amount of evidence, or a circumstantial evidence, that Glamrock Bonnie was the first bot Vanny and Glitchtrap took over, both because he was a Bonnie, and because his attraction was connected to a security office that was hidden away. Notice the wet floor bots connected to Glamrock Bonnie turn themselves away from intruders but look eagerly towards the Vanny mask. This would also explain why, for some reason, Glamrock Bonnie's model in the viewer in Help Wanted 2 has him holding the same pose as Glitchtrap when Vanny smushed him. And I know you're gonna say that was just a coincidence, but that's a very specific coincidence. That model could have been in any pose. Their ears also have the same tilt to them in the Bonnie Bull minigame, but that aside, we can't actually say for sure that Glamrock Bonnie was hacked. We must also consider the possibility that maybe he went along with it, especially if Yellow-Eyed Helpi is him, because that would mean he's still working after Glitchtrap was busted. So there's three options. Option number 1, Glamrock Bonnie was truly hacked or brainwashed before the other Glamrocks were, likely because he fit the bit. 2. Glamrock Bonnie was evil. It could be like a parallel to William and Henry, where the Freddy of the situation sees Bonnie as his dear friend and loves him, but then the Bonnie uses him and stabs him in the back. This could be reflected by the cut bowling animations that show a sadistic Bonnie torturing bowling pins, which were notably replaced by newer, much less sinister animations when brought back in Help Wanted 2. This would explain why he's still working after Glitchtrap and Vanny are gone. That says Gilstrap. Okay. And the final option, option 3, Bonnie was threatened and coerced into cooperation. Kind of like how Vanessa was. See, with how much Bonnie seemingly adores Freddy, if he was told it was him or Freddy, he might have volunteered. Heck, maybe that's why Freddy seemed to die on stage and go into safe mode. Maybe Bonnie somehow had a hand in that. One of the last places Bonnie was seen was in the East Arcade. Because of this, there's a theory that Bonnie was looking for the fire escape the night he disappeared. Maybe he was looking for a way to escape the Pizzaplex, maybe with Freddy, or to get out to warn someone, somewhere where he wouldn't be seen on the cameras. Or even the Help a Child escape. Remember the line, "It won't be like the last one."
It won't be like the last one.
And what happened was somehow he ended up in Monty Golf. Either he and Monty got in a fight, or Vanny got control of Monty, and in the end, Glamrock Bonnie fell from the catwalks and was decommissioned. To stop his meddling, as really, Vanny and Glitchtrap didn't necessarily need him to move around. Remember that time Glitchtrap was looking up bisecting people through Vanny and the cut FNAF AR emails? Bonnie's spine remembers. Though this could also play into the Glamrock Bonnie was hacked or evil theory, in which he went to Monty Golf to get something from Monty, and Monty reacted in self-defense. Or Monty just did attack Bonnie out of jealousy and just happened to land his mark on someone working a child kidnapping conspiracy by sheer luck. And because someone will mention it, yes, the Mimic could have also donned a Monty exterior and ambushed Bonnie in Monty Golf, but I'll cover some stuff in a second which leads me to believe that Mimic wouldn't have needed to do that. There are many possibilities, and really you could make any of them work. Now, I do think Monty did the cover-up. It's way too messy. Only he would have the bright idea to make it look like he slipped and fell and got smashed by his own bowling ball, which he proceeded to break on the wall right next to him, so it's clear it didn't fall on him. That's a real Monty move, especially if VIP is canon, because there's a clever trap he sets there where he just puts a cardboard cutout of himself pointing and then just camps out waiting for someone to buy it. But as for why everyone gave up on Bonnie so quickly and replaced him with Monty, we assume it was because Monty was more popular, but it could have been Vanny. Think about it for a second. Vanessa was able to get all of the security team fired on a whim, including anyone who questioned her. She could have even been behind all of the night staff being fired, too. All she had to do was type up a report and send it out under the guise of being a higher-up, and boom, Bonnie was wiped off the map. And this is also why I don't think Monty was framed, both because Fazbear Entertainment wouldn't care, and because Bonnie was covered up so effectively that there was no point in framing anyone. You frame someone to have them take the fall, but there is no fall. There wasn't even a slip and fall. It was all a ruse. So with this in mind, there is actually a fourth option. Option 4 is that Glamrock Bonnie was not a willing participant until the situation of his shattering and immediate replacement by Fazbear Entertainment. That all of this time of watching himself get replaced, watching himself get forgotten, and sitting in a dark room alone with the wet floorbots left him angry, cold, and bitter. And by the time of ruin, with Glamrock Bonnie aware that he's trapped forever, he realizes that Mimic is his only way out. They're in this together. Maybe he even allows Cassie to shut him down, either to no longer be tethered to the body or wanting to see what it would do. It would explain why the wet floorbots being deactivated opens the door. They themselves don't control this door, but the puppeteer in the system might. But what about Freddy? What about Freddy? Look how they treated Freddy. Look what happened to him. Look who got away with all of this. Vanessa just got to walk away. And here's Glamrock Bonnie trapped forever with the Mimic. But the problem is this. The mimic must mimic, and now it's mimicking Gregory for some reason. It is Bonnie's only companion, and the only way it can get out is if someone goes in. Which is why Cassie is needed to fill the role Vanessa once filled. Which is why they needed her to be Vanny, if only for a little while. And it's easy to use someone you don't know after all of this. Cassie is a kid, one of the numerous kids who forgot he existed. The daughter of one of the technicians who helped replace him. And the only chance he has in getting out. Desperate times call for desperate sacrifices. And if he was actively involved with the Vanny plan, if Glitchtrap is deeper inside of him than just a puppeteer, then it would probably be easy to put a kid up on the chopping block. After all, Vanessa herself was willing to sacrifice someone to get herself free. And it worked. But also, maybe this isn't the case. Maybe there's an option 5, which is another brief possibility, is that Glamrock Bonnie is just entirely bamboozled and thinks Mimic is Gregory and is trying to help Cassie get to him, but for a multitude of reasons, I don't think this is the case. So, here's the deal. We've got a lot of suspicious stuff that we covered, and things that look to be connections, but no smoking gun. But blazing yellow eyes, and stuff that may be plot holes caused by Help Wanted 2 and Ruin being out of order, or might have been entirely on purpose. The bottom line is that we don't know Glamrock Bonnie. I might have laid out this whole line of evidence that shows that Glamrock Bonnie might have been, could have been, looks like he was Yellow-Eyed Helpi, and there are a lot of things that look like they could have truly been. But we don't know. We don't know anything about Bonnie. All we know is that Freddy loved him. And Freddy, being as naive and trusting as he is, thinking the Pizzaplex is safe even as his bandmates become half feral, it would be easy for him to misread someone. But the likelihood is that we will never know. Glamrock Bonnie's only voice lines were cut from Help Wanted 2. Even these were so dry, text-wise, that we can't glean much meaning off of them except that he was either calm or unenthusiastic. So in the end, maybe Glamrock Bonnie was the helpless victim who we always believed he was. An unfortunate victim of Vanny, Monty, Glitchtrap, the Pizzaplex, everyone. Lost and forgotten, cursed to forever watch and never be found. But maybe he wasn't. And perhaps some things are best left forgotten for now. Thank you for watching.